She roared in anger, yet I couldn't resist saying, "You're so hot when you're angry." Lightning strikes Maya Chen tugged her rain jacket tighter as she squinted through the windshield of the research van. The wipers fought a losing battle against the torrential downpour, and in the distance, lightning illuminated the Nebraska plains in brilliant flashes. This was supposed to be a routine data collection expedition, but the sudden arrival of Zephyr Brooks had turned it into anything but routine. "We need to get closer," Zephyr said, his voice carrying that perpetual note of excitement that had irritated Maya since he'd joined the Heartland Storm Research Institute 3 weeks ago. "Those cloud formations are exactly what we've been looking for." Maya gripped the steering wheel tighter. "The protocol is clear. We maintain a minimum 5-mile distance from supercell thunderstorms of this magnitude. Protocols are guidelines. Dr. Chen," he replied, emphasizing her title with a hint of playfulness that made her jaw clench. "Sometimes science demands exceptions." She glanced sideways at him. Tousled dark hair, perpetual stubble, and that insufferable half-smile that had charmed everyone else on the team, but only made her more determined to maintain professional boundaries. "Science demands methodical precision and safety considerations," she countered, slowing the van to a complete stop. "Not reckless thrill-seeking disguised as research." Zephyr laughed, a warm sound that somehow cut through the drumming of rain on the roof. "Is that what you think I'm doing? Thrill-seeking? Your reputation precedes you, Mr. Brooks." "Just Zephyr, please." He leaned closer, pointing to the radar screen between them. "Look at those velocity signatures. That's a mesocyclone forming right now. If we position just 2 miles closer, our sensors could capture the entire evolution." Maya frowned at the data. He wasn't wrong, and that fact annoyed her even more. "Those readings could provide the missing variables for my turbulence model," she admitted reluctantly. "Exactly." His eyes lit up with genuine scientific passion. "Your models combined with my field observations could revolutionize early warning systems." Before she could respond, a blinding flash and immediate crack of thunder shook the van. A massive lightning strike had hit something nearby. "That's it. We're turning back," Maya declared, already putting the vehicle in reverse. Zephyr's hand touched her arm. "Wait, just give me 15 minutes with the portable equipment." "I won't go far from the van. Absolutely not. I'm the lead researcher on this expedition. And I've been in 100 storms worse than this." He was already reaching for his gear in the back. "This data could save lives, Maya." "Dr. Chen," she corrected automatically, pulse quickening with anger. "And you're not going out there alone." "Then come with me." Before she could form a rational argument against it, they were both outside, rain pelting them as they set up the equipment under the partial shelter of the van's rear door. Wind whipped around them, and Maya struggled to keep her footing on the slick ground. "This is insane," she shouted over the storm. Zephyr looked up at her, rain dripping from his face, eyes alive with excitement. "Isn't it incredible, though? Nature at its most powerful." As another lightning bolt illuminated the sky, Maya glimpsed genuine wonder on his face, so at odds with the reckless playboy image she'd constructed of him. 3 minutes, she conceded. "Then we're leaving." They worked in hurried tandem, and despite her irritation, Maya had to admit they functioned well together, her precise calculations complementing his intuitive adjustments. When they finally scrambled back into the van, soaking wet but with valuable data secured, Zephyr turned to her with that infuriating grin. "Admit it, Dr. Chen. That was worth breaking protocol for." Maya pushed wet hair from her face. "It was unnecessarily dangerous." "But exhilarating," he countered. Then leaning closer, he added in a lower voice, "You know, you're absolutely stunning when you're furious and soaking wet." Her cheeks burned despite the chill of her damp clothes. "That's completely inappropriate." But something in his gaze, admiration mixed with something deeper than mere flirtation, made her heart race in a way that had nothing to do with the storm raging outside. Thunder rolls. The fluorescent lights of the research lab hummed overhead as Maya stared at her computer screen, the data from their storm chase forming colorful patterns across multiple monitors. It was nearly midnight, but she couldn't tear herself away from the remarkable readings they'd captured. "Still here?" Zephyr's voice startled her. He stood in the doorway, holding 2 steaming mugs. Maya straightened, immediately conscious of her rumpled appearance. "These pressure differentials are unlike anything I've documented before." Peace offering, he said, placing a mug of jasmine tea, her favorite, beside her keyboard. She wondered how he knew her preference. Thank you, she said cautiously, taking a sip.
Zephyr settled into the chair beside her, closer than professional norms dictated, but not close enough to justify asking him to move.
I've been reviewing the footage. The vertical velocity was extraordinary. That's what doesn't make sense, Maya said, momentarily forgetting her resolution to maintain distance. Look at these temperature gradients. According to established models, the storm should have dissipated, not intensified. He leaned closer to examine her screen, his shoulder brushing hers. What if it's not just temperature driving it? What if electromagnetic field variations are amplifying the convection? Maya blinked, considering the possibility. That's actually an interesting theory. Try not to sound so surprised, he said with a chuckle. Their eyes met, and for a moment neither spoke. Maya noticed flecks of gold in his green eyes she hadn't seen before. The building's old electrical system chose that moment to surrender to the continuing storm outside. With a whine, the lights flickered and died, plunging the lab into darkness. Perfect timing, Zephyr muttered. Maya fumbled for her phone, activating the flashlight. The backup generator should kick in soon. Should, Zephyr emphasized. But the way today's going. He pulled out his own phone, adding its light to the dim room. In the strange half-light, the atmosphere between them shifted. The darkness seemed to dissolve professional boundaries, creating an unexpected intimacy. So, he said, leaning back in his chair, how does someone become the youngest PhD in atmospheric physics from MIT? Maya raised an eyebrow. You've been researching me? Know your competition, he replied with a smile that lacked its usual cockiness, though I'm beginning to think you're more of a potential collaborator than competition. Flattery won't get your storm-chasing antics approved, she countered, but without her usual edge. Not flattery, recognition. His voice grew serious. Your paper on multi-vortex tornado prediction algorithms was brilliant. Changed how I approach field research. She hadn't expected this. You read that? I've read all your published work. He shrugged at her surprised expression. What? Did you think I was just some adrenaline junkie with a weather radar? Maya felt heat rise to her cheeks, grateful for the dim lighting. Your reputation is exaggerated, he finished. Yes, I take calculated risks in the field. But they're calculated, Maya. I'm not reckless with data or lives. The use of her first name felt natural now, and she didn't correct him. What about you, he asked. What drives Dr. Maya Chen to chase mathematical models of phenomena most people run from? No colleague had ever asked her that. My grandmother died in a flash flood in rural China. The village had no warning system, no evacuation plan. I'm sorry, he said softly. I was 8. I decided then that I would find ways to predict what seemed unpredictable. She hadn't shared this with anyone at the Institute before. Your turn. Why storms? Zephyr was quiet for a moment. I grew up in Tornado Alley. Most kids were terrified during storm warnings. I was the weird one who wanted to see what was happening. That tracks, Maya said with a small smile. But it was more than curiosity. His voice softened. There's something humbling about standing near something so powerful. Reminds you what matters. The backup generator finally hummed to life, but only emergency lights activated, keeping the lab in a soft twilight state. And what matters to you, Zephyr Brooks? Maya found herself asking. He looked at her, all pretense gone. Truth, discovery, and lately, he paused. Collaboration with people who challenge me to be better. Something electric passed between them, more powerful than the lightning outside. Maya's breath caught as she realized how close they'd moved toward each other. The main light suddenly blazed back on, breaking the spell. Maya blinked in the harsh fluorescence, feeling oddly exposed. We should call it a night, she said, gathering her papers. Big team meeting tomorrow. Zephyr nodded, but his eyes still held questions neither was ready to answer. Maya, he said as she reached the door. For what it's worth, I think we make a good team. She paused, looking back at him. The data does support that hypothesis, she admitted with the hint of a smile. Preliminary findings only, of course. His answering laugh followed her down the corridor, warming her more than it should have. Eye of the hurricane evacuation is mandatory. All personnel must report to the transport vehicles immediately. The Institute director's voice echoed through the loudspeakers as Maya rushed to secure irreplaceable research equipment. Hurricane Eliza had intensified overnight, defying all prediction models, including hers. Now a Category 4 storm, it was bearing down on their coastal research facility with frightening speed. Maya, Zephyr appeared at her lab door. "We need to go now." 2 minutes, she called back, frantically backing up data and disconnecting sensitive instruments. "We don't have 2 minutes." He strode to her side, helping disconnect servers. "The causeway will be underwater in 30 minutes. Working together, they completed the shutdown in record time. As they hurried toward the exit, the building's emergency lights flickered ominously. "Where's everyone else?" Maya asked, noticing the empty corridors. "Last transport left 5 minutes ago," Zephyr said grimly. "Director agreed to wait as long as possible for you." "For me? What about you?" He gave her a look. "Someone had to make sure you didn't sacrifice yourself for meteorological data." Outside, the wind nearly knocked Maya off her feet. Rain fell horizontally, stinging her skin as they ran toward the last remaining vehicle. Zephyr's rugged jeep rather than an institute transport. "The others?" she shouted over the wind. "Safely ahead," he called back, helping her into the passenger seat before running around to the driver's side. But the causeway's already taking on water. As they drove away from the facility, Maya looked back at the place that had been her home for the past 3 years. The research center stood defiant against the darkening sky, weather instruments still rotating on its roof. "It'll hold," Zephyr said, following her gaze. "It's built for this." But 20 minutes later, it became clear they wouldn't make it across the causeway. Already waves washed over sections of the road, and the wind was strong enough to rock the heavy jeep. "We need to find shelter," Maya said, clutching the dashboard as Zephyr navigated through increasingly dangerous conditions. He nodded grimly. "I know a place." The storm bunker was a concrete structure built into a rise of land on the mainland side of the bay, close enough to reach, far enough from the surge zone. Designed as an observation post for extreme weather, it was spare but secure. "Get inside," Zephyr shouted, pushing the heavy door open against the wind. Once they were both inside, it took their combined strength to close it again. The sudden absence of howling wind left an eerie silence, broken only by their heavy breathing and water dripping from their clothes. "That was too close," Maya said, pushing wet hair from her face. Zephyr was already moving around the small space, checking the emergency provisions and activating the backup power system. A single LED light illuminated the Spartan interior. A table, 2 chairs, a small cot, and shelves of supplies. "Communications are down," he reported after trying the radio. "But we've got power, water, and enough food for 2 days." Maya wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold now that the adrenaline was fading. Without a word, Zephyr pulled an emergency blanket from a cabinet and draped it around her shoulders. "Thank you," she said, their eyes meeting briefly. "For coming back for me," he shrugged. "I figured someone should stick around to argue with you about data collection methods." A small smile crossed her lips. "Is that what we do, argue?" "Among other things." His voice softened. "We make scientific breakthroughs. We challenge each other. The bunker shuddered as something heavy struck it from outside. Maya instinctively reached for Zephyr, her hand finding his arm. "It's okay," he said, covering her hand with his. "This place can withstand an F5 tornado." Hours passed as the hurricane raged around them. They sat side by side at the small table, monitoring the storm's progress on Zephyr's tablet until the battery ran low, then conserving it to check essential updates. As night fell, the temperature inside the bunker dropped further. "You should take the cot," Zephyr said, noticing Maya shiver despite the blanket. "And you'll what, sleep on concrete?" "I've slept in worse conditions." She shook her head. "Don't be ridiculous. We can share it." A loaded pause followed her pragmatic suggestion. The narrow cot barely fit them both. They lay facing each other, closer than they'd ever been, sharing the blanket in the dim emergency lighting. Maya could feel Zephyr's breath on her face, see the careful way he kept a sliver of space between them. "You know," she said softly, 6 weeks ago I thought you were the most infuriating person I'd ever met." His lips curved. "And now?" "Still infuriating," she admitted, "but also brilliant, and unexpectedly considerate." "High praise from Dr. Chen," he murmured, his gaze dropping briefly to her lips. Outside, the hurricane reached its peak intensity. Wind screamed around the bunker, the sound otherworldly and terrifying. Maya shuddered. "Hey," Zephyr said gently, his hand finding hers between them. We're in the safest place possible. I know that logically, she whispered. But I've never been this close to something so powerful. Focus on something else, he suggested, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. Tell me about your favorite constellation. The simple, unexpected question made her smile. Cassiopeia. She was vain but brilliant. Reminds me of someone I know, he teased, earning a light push against his chest. Her hand remained there, feeling his heartbeat through his shirt. The steady rhythm calmed her more than any words could have. Zephyr, she said, her voice barely audible above the storm. Maya, he responded, her name sounding like a question. She closed the small distance between them, her lips finding his in the darkness. The kiss was gentle at first, questioning, then deepened as his hand moved to her waist, drawing her closer. All the tension that had simmered between them transformed, electric and undeniable. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Zephyr tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I've been wanting to do that since you called me reckless the first day we met. Maya laughed softly. You were reckless. Worth it, he murmured, leaning in to kiss her again as the hurricane began its slow retreat, leaving them in the eye of their own personal storm. Clearing sky's morning light filtered through the bunker's small reinforced window, casting gentle rays across Maya's sleeping form. Zephyr was already awake, watching her with a mixture of wonder and uncertainty. Last night had changed everything. Their heated kisses and whispered confessions in the dark creating a new landscape between them that he wasn't sure how to navigate. Maya stirred, her eyes opening slowly. For a moment she seemed disoriented. Then her gaze focused on him and a small, shy smile touched her lips. Hi, she said softly. Hi yourself, he replied, resisting the urge to brush a strand of hair from her face. Storm's passed. She sat up, instantly alert. Completely? What's the damage assessment? Zephyr couldn't help but smile. Even now, the scientist in her took precedence. Communications are back up. Facility sustained minor damage. Everyone's accounted for. Relief washed over her face. When can we get back? Emergency crews are clearing the causeway. Should be passable by noon. He paused. Maya, about last night? She looked away, suddenly intent on straightening her rumpled clothes. We should prepare to head back as soon as possible. The data collection systems will need to be reset. Zephyr felt a familiar frustration rise. Are we really going to pretend nothing happened? Maya finally met his eyes. I don't know what we're going to do, she admitted. This is complicated. Only if we make it complicated, he countered, moving to sit beside her. I like you, Maya. Not just as a brilliant scientist, though you certainly are that. I like arguing with you, working with you, kissing you. A blush crept across her cheeks. We work together. There are professional considerations. True, he acknowledged. But is that all that's holding you back? Maya was quiet for a long moment. You have a reputation, Zephyr, for taking risks, for not staying in one place very long. Understanding dawned. You think I'm a flight risk. Your contract with the Institute is for 6 months. Your previous postings never lasted longer than that. Maybe I never had a reason to stay, he said quietly. Before she could respond, the bunker's radio crackled to life. Brooks Chen, do you copy? Causeway will be clear in 30 minutes. Transportation en route to your location. Zephyr squeezed her hand briefly before rising to respond to the call. Copy that. We'll be ready. The ride back to the Institute was quiet, filled with unspoken questions. As they approached the facility, Maya finally broke the silence. We should be professional at work, she said. Whatever this is between us, we need to figure it out without an audience. Zephyr nodded, understanding the wisdom in her caution. Agreed. But we will figure it out, Maya. This isn't something I'm willing to just let go. The research center buzzed with activity as scientists and technicians assessed damage and restarted systems. Director Harlow greeted them with visible relief. Thank God you two made it safely, she said. Though I'm not surprised our top minds found a solution. We've got emergency protocol debriefing in 20 minutes, but first, she handed them each a tablet. You need to see this. Maya gasped as she looked at the screen. These readings? They're unprecedented. The Institute's remote sensors continued collecting data throughout the hurricane, Director Harlow explained, and they captured something extraordinary. A previously undocumented interaction between the electromagnetic field and barometric pressure fluctuations. This could explain the anomalies in the prediction models, Zephyr said excitedly, already scrolling through the data. Exactly. The director looked between them. I want you two heading a special research initiative on this phenomenon. If we can understand it, we might revolutionize hurricane forecasting. As Harlow walked away, Zephyr glanced at Maya, whose eyes still hadn't left the tablet. So much for keeping our distance at work, he murmured. We just got assigned to work together exclusively. Maya looked up, a mix of emotions crossing her face. This data, it's what I've been searching for my entire career. I know, he said, resisting the urge to take her hand in front of their colleagues. Congratulations, Dr. Chen. For the next 2 weeks, they maintained a careful professional distance in public, channeling their connection into their work. The research progressed at an astonishing pace, their complementary approaches yielding insights neither would have discovered alone. But in private moments, late nights in the lab when everyone else had gone, early mornings reviewing data over coffee in Maya's apartment, the boundaries blurred. Each kiss, each shared laugh, each night spent in each other's arms deepened what had begun in the storm bunker. One evening, as they sat on Maya's balcony, watching distant lightning illuminate the ocean, Zephyr broached the subject they'd been avoiding. My contract review is next week, he said. His fingers intertwined with hers. Maya tensed slightly. Have you decided what you're going to do? That depends, he replied, turning to face her fully. The Zurich Climate Institute offered me a permanent position. Very prestigious, excellent funding. Her face remained carefully neutral. That's a remarkable opportunity. It is, he agreed. But there's also the possibility of extending my contract here. Director Harlow mentioned a joint research position. Permanent. Co-leading a new division focused on electromagnetic influences in extreme weather events. Hope flickered in Maya's eyes. Co-leading? With you, he said softly. If you're interested. Professionally, it sounds ideal, she admitted. And personally? He pressed. Maya looked out at the horizon where stars were becoming visible as the sky darkened. Zephyr, we've known each other for less than 3 months. And in that time, you've challenged me, infuriated me, inspired me, and made me happier than I've been in years. He gently turned her face toward his. I'm not asking for forever right now, Maya. I'm just asking if you want to see where this could go, both our research and whatever this is between us. What if it doesn't work out? She whispered. What if we crash and burn like one of your storm fronts? Then we weather it, he said simply. That's what we do, isn't it? Study the unpredictable, face the unknown, and find beauty in the chaos. Maya's laugh was soft but genuine. That's either the most ridiculous or most romantic thing anyone has ever said to me. I'm hoping for romantic, he murmured, leaning closer. The data is still inconclusive, she teased, her lips nearly touching his. Then let's gather more, he suggested, closing the distance between them as lightning flashed again on the distant horizon, illuminating 2 figures now entwined as one. After the storm 6 months later, the newly established Electromagnetic Weather Phenomena Division buzzed with activity. Under the joint leadership of Dr. Maya Chen and Zephyr Brooks, the team had made remarkable strides in understanding how electromagnetic fields influenced extreme weather events. Their breakthrough paper was slated for publication in Science, and funding had tripled after their preliminary findings caught the attention of international climate researchers. Maya stood at the window of their shared office, watching dark clouds gather on the horizon. Hurricane season had returned, bringing with it new opportunities for data collection. Thinking about the Torres deployment? Zephyr asked, coming to stand beside her. Despite the professional setting, his hand brushed against hers, a small liberty they allowed themselves when alone. The satellite imagery shows unusual electromagnetic patterns, she confirmed. Similar to what we observed with Eliza, but with key differences. The new sensors should capture more detailed readings this time, he said. The team is preparing the equipment now. Maya turned to him, concern evident in her eyes. The mobile units will need to get closer than we've attempted before. I know, he said softly. That's why I'm leading the field team personally. Zephyr, before you object, he interrupted gently. Remember that this was the plan we both agreed on. You coordinate from the command center, I handle the field deployment. She sighed, knowing he was right. I don't have to like it. You'd like it even less if we sent someone with less experience. He touched her cheek briefly. I'll be careful, promise. The promise carried weight now, meaning something different than it would have 6 months ago. What had begun in a storm bunker had deepened into something neither had expected, a partnership that transcended their professional collaboration. Not that it had been easy. Their colleagues had whispered when their relationship became evident, questioning whether romance would compromise their research. Director Harlow had called them both into her office for a frank discussion about professional boundaries and potential conflicts of interest. But over time, they had proven that their personal connection enhanced rather than detracted from their work. Their different approaches, Maya's methodical analysis and Zephyr's intuitive leaps, created a balance that yielded results neither could have achieved alone. 3 days later, Maya stood in the Institute's command center surrounded by monitors displaying real-time data from the approaching hurricane. Field Team Alpha, led by Zephyr, had deployed to the predicted convergence zone where electromagnetic anomalies were strongest. Alpha Team in position, Zephyr's voice came through the speakers. Deploying primary sensor array now. Maya checked the readings on her screen. Wind velocity at 110 mph and increasing. You've got 20 minutes before conditions become critical. Copy that. We're already getting unprecedented readings. The electromagnetic fluctuations are interacting with the pressure systems exactly as your model predicted. Pride surged through her, though concern still gnawed at her edges. All units maintain minimum safe distance per protocol. Dr. Chen, one of the technicians called. We're detecting a rapid intensification pattern forming. Maya rushed to the station, analyzing the data with growing alarm. That's impossible. The temperature differentials shouldn't allow. She stopped, seeing the pattern emerge. Zephyr, we're detecting a supercell formation directly in your path. Evacuate immediately. Static crackled through the communication system. Zephyr, do you copy? More static, then his voice broke through, fragmented. Readings are off the charts, never seen anything. Could explain them. Forget the readings, Maya ordered, her professional calm slipping. Get your team out of there now! Revolutionary discovery need 5 more minutes. The transmission cut out entirely. Maya felt ice in her veins. Restore communication, she ordered the technicians. Working on it, they responded. The electromagnetic interference is affecting all channels. 10 minutes passed with no contact, the longest 10 minutes of Maya's life. She stared at the data streaming in from the remote sensors, recognizing patterns that both fascinated and terrified her. If Zephyr was still in that convergence zone. Vehicle approaching the perimeter, announced a security officer. It's Alpha Team. Maya was outside before anyone could stop her, heedless of the rain that immediately drenched her. The research vehicle emerged from the storm, mud-splattered and bearing a few new dents, but intact. When Zephyr stepped out, soaking wet and grinning, relief and fury warred within her. Before you say anything, he began, holding up a waterproof case. We got it. Complete electromagnetic mapping of a supercell formation during intensification. Maya, this proves your theory. She wanted to kiss him and strangle him in equal measure. You cut communications. You violated evacuation protocols. The interference knocked out comms, he explained, following her back inside. And we maintained safe distance according to the new models we developed. In the command center, the team gathered around as Zephyr connected the data drives to the main system. Instantly, the screens filled with readings that made even the most experienced researchers gasp. It's beautiful, Maya whispered, anger temporarily forgotten as she absorbed the implications. The electromagnetic fields aren't just influenced by the storm dynamics, they're driving them. Which means, Zephyr continued, his eyes locked with hers across the room. With the right equipment, we could potentially modulate those fields, she finished his thought. And influence storm intensity, he concluded. The room erupted in excited discussion, scientists immediately theorizing applications and next steps. Director Harlow approached them both, her expression solemn despite the breakthrough. Remarkable work, she acknowledged. But Brooks, we need to discuss your field protocols. Dr. Chen was correct, you should have evacuated immediately. With all due respect, Director, Maya interjected, surprising both Harlow and herself. The decision to remain was scientifically sound, if procedurally questionable. The data collected will save countless lives. After the debriefing, they found themselves alone in their office. the excitement of discovery tempered by the day's tension. "You defended me," Zephyr said, leaning against his desk, "even though you were furious." "I can be furious with you and still recognize when you're right," Maya replied, crossing her arms. "But don't ever scare me like that again." He moved toward her, closing the distance between them. "The Maya Chen I met 9 months ago would have thrown me under the bus for violating protocols." "The Maya Chen you met 9 months ago didn't love you," she said softly. Zephyr froze, his eyes widening. It was the first time either of them had spoken those words. "Say that again," he whispered. Maya uncrossed her arms, vulnerability and certainty warring in her expression. "I love you, Zephyr Brooks. Your brilliance, your passion, even your occasional recklessness," she swallowed. "And it terrifies me because I've built my life around control and certainty. And you're the most unpredictable variable I've ever encountered." A slow smile spread across his face. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, worn leather notebook. "I've been carrying this around for weeks, waiting for the right moment." He opened it to a page filled with his handwriting. "This is the first note I made about you the day we met. It says, Dr. Chen, brilliant, stubborn, possibly the most fascinating woman I've ever met. Definitely the most infuriating." Maya laughed despite herself. He turned the page. "2 months ago I wrote this. I'm in love with Maya, not sure how to tell her without scaring her away." Her breath caught as he closed the distance between them. "I love you, Maya Chen," he said simply. "Your precision, your passion, your dedication. I love how you check data 3 times and still worry it might be wrong. I love how you fight for what you believe in. I love that you've made me a better scientist and a better man." He took her hands in his. "I don't know what the future holds. That's your department with all those prediction models. But I know I want to face it with you, whether it brings hurricanes or clear skies." Maya reached up, tracing the line of his jaw with her fingertips. "The data supports that conclusion," she whispered. "All evidence indicates we're better together than apart. Is that your scientific assessment, Dr. Chen?" He murmured, his lips inches from hers. "No," she answered, closing the final distance between them. "That's my heart." Outside, the storm began to clear, sunlight breaking through the clouds in golden shafts that illuminated the research center. Inside, 2 people who had once been opposing forces had found harmony in their differences, creating something as powerful and beautiful as the weather phenomena they studied. Unpredictable, occasionally turbulent, but ultimately a perfect balance of opposing energies, creating something greater than either could be alone.